Hello, everyone. My name is Abdul Mazar Shafi. I'm just a voice right now. You cannot see me as I'm having some video issues. We're hoping to get rectified soon. Thank you for joining us today for a live interrupted webinar on understanding the recruitment process during COVID-19. My name is Abdul Mazar Shafi. I'm a 2014 engineering grad from McGill and the vice president of the McGill Young Alumni Association. I'm also a co-founder at Upstart Ed and a partner at Quantum Leap. At the Young Alumni Association for McGill, our aim is to connect, support, and engage McGill students and graduates of the last decade. And it's in pursuance of this respective mission that we're pleased to have with us today, firstly, Peter Corbellion. Peter, just wave.
Iowa.
Fantastic. Peter is the co-founder of Plus5 XP, a startup that helps young professionals simulate 5 years of experience through workshops and one-on-one coaching. He's also the industry advocate and technical specialist for McGill's Master of Management in Analytics program. We also have with us fellow McGillians, starting off with Claudia Torregrosa. Claudia graduated in 2015 from McGill and is a talent acquisition manager at Tractic. Hi there, Claudia.
Hi.
Claudia started her career in technology recruitment after graduation, and while it was not the career path she intended to pursue, she could not be happier about it. When she's not coaching candidates and trying to match them with their dream job, she's generally looking for best ways to retain employees and help them develop professionally while finding time to volunteer and give back to worthy causes like helping us out today. So thank you for being here, Claudia. Finally, we have Remy Medet. Hi, Remy.
Hello.
Remy is actually a recent graduate from McGill's Masters of Analytics program. He has used some of the opportunities we've presented, some of the tips that we've showcased during the recruitment process that we'll be talking about later today. And so we're very excited to share a little bit about Remy's journey that led him to Rogers Communication. So before we get started, I'd like to mention that you can submit questions to the speakers at any point during the webinar through the question panel. I'll now turn things over to Claudia to get us started. All yours.
Amazing. So I'll let you confirm whether you can see my screen. Can you all see my screen right now? Amazing.
Yes.
Perfect. So I was invited by Peter. Thank you very much, Peter, for having me over to talk about the recruitment process during COVID-19. And spoiler alert, it is somewhat similar to the recruitment process outside of COVID-19, but I'm going to walk you through some of the changes that have happened. So who am I? That person sitting in the middle, looking very comfortable pre-COVID and social distancing. I am a McGill alumna. I actually studied at this hotel, and I graduated with concentrations in marketing and strategy for social businesses. When I graduated, my goal was to work in a nonprofit organization and take care of their employer branding. So employer branding being the discipline whereby you use marketing to attract the right candidates to that organization and really help them shine. I looked for a job for what felt like an eternity, and that to me was defined as 4 weeks. And then I was desperate, really didn't know like if I could ever find a job. And really randomly, I got introduced to a company called Tandem Launch by someone that I had met once, only once. And that person introduced me to the CEO of Tandem Launch and saying, I think that that person might be a good intern for you. And then he let me know about it. So without even asking me, he just introduced me. I thought that I wasn't going to be interested in the company because it wasn't high technology. I had no idea what that was. I didn't think I had an interest. But I decided to show up to the interview because I wanted to get practice. And then surprise, surprise, I had a total professional crush on the CEO of that company. And the internship that was supposed to last for 2 months ended up becoming a full-time job. And I stayed there for 3 years and a little bit. So really happy about it, really changed my career. Glad I took that interview and took that chance. And since then, in February of 2018, I have moved to Tractic, where I have continued doing what I carved out myself to do at Tandem Launch. So I identified that need into saying, okay, you need to attract people. Can I help you with that? And because I still wanted to do employer branding, and also managed to plug that in and saying, okay, we're not attracting the right people. Can I work on the employer branding? So I'm still doing that today, and I'm also doing HR. And HR is usually seen as something more internal. So recruitment is about attracting people, hiring them. HR is really about growing them, making sure that they have learning opportunities, that they're retained for the long term. So that's a little bit about me, my career. When it comes to my day-to-day, so recruitment, a few things that have changed for us recruiters during COVID. I want to walk you through some of them because there is, of course, the side of the candidate, like it seems harder to find a job right now, but there's also the side of the recruiter, like it is harder to recruit right now. Something that happened with COVID is that everyone in the companies turned around to the talent department and asked, what do we do now? Like, what is the plan? What are the policies that you have in place for remote work? Are you going to give us allowance to buy equipment because we're not going to be remote? How do I manage my team, which is struggling with mental health and has their kid at home? And we weren't prepared for that as a talent team, and no one was prepared for that, but we had to deal with those questions. And that was, of course, like something that we had to to get ourselves ready to do. In parallel to that, as you probably noticed in your job search, a lot of the hiring was frozen across companies. And that was also the case at Tractic. We went from hiring 6 to 8 people a month to not having a single position posted for 3 full months, and then going to 2 positions, and now we're back to 20 positions posted. But that is also transition. When your day-to-day is talking to people on the phone and interviewing, and then suddenly you can't do that anymore, you also have to question your career and see, okay, where can I bring value? There were layoffs. You saw that a lot of people are going into the market because the companies could not keep them on payroll. It was the case at Tractic. We had roughly 25% of our workforce, which was affected. Half of those were permanent layoffs where we decided, okay, we can't maintain this position. We will have to abolish it. And the other half was temporary layoffs. And that means that most people who wanted to return, actually every person who wanted to return has been invited to return and has already returned. So it is good, but it was kind of something that we had to get over. So there's that other side. And other things, so we were asked to anticipate the future, like hiring managers asking us, okay, can tell us what we will need to hire so that we can be ready next time. Let's figure it out together. And please hire faster because there's so many people on the market. It should definitely be easier to find someone, and maybe we can even not spend as much budget because there's so much choice. And those are misconceptions. There are a lot of people on the market, but everyone has a very unique skill set, and you have a unique skill set as a McGill graduate, and it is just a question of differentiating yourself and really like targeting the right organizations. But it doesn't mean that the pool of candidates has become larger necessarily in your field or that you have no chance. Be patient with the organizations. The process has become slower for some of them. And an example at Tractic, we were a team of 9 people in talent. And after the layoffs and everything, we're now 4 people. So how do we do with 4 people the same work that we were doing with double the team? So that's a reality on the employer side and the consequences that COVID has had. Um, that being said, a lot of the process is very similar to what used to happen before COVID. If we exclude, of course, the fact that instead of interviewing in person, you're interviewing over camera, that instead of being recruited to work in the office, you're going to work from home for at least a certain amount of time. So my goal today is to walk you through the different processes and the different steps, sorry, and to highlight, okay, what are the opportunity areas? What is it that we as recruiters are seeing that people are not leveraging, that we wish they would do this because it would make our job easier and it would make them more attractive? And I am going to present them as if they were like really separate steps that happen one after the other. They do happen one after the other for each individual candidate. But what tends to happen is that several candidates are at different stages at a given point in time. So if you apply tomorrow, but the job has been open for a week, it is possible that someone is already at the interviewing stage, is already doing a test. So it's just something to keep in mind that um, apply fast, and there are just other candidates on the market at different stages. So let's get started. When it comes to the first step, that is really the need definition and the approval. If we look at hiring managers within a company, most of them will say, I do want a new hire. And if we were to hire for all of these positions, we would be bankrupt extremely fast. So there is an approval process. And usually it is finance and talent who are involved. And they ask questions such as, okay, what is the business need that this new person is going to meet? What do you want them to do on a day-to-day basis? Could anyone within the team be promoted to take that role? Or if they can't, like, could it be someone within the company that could get moved for that role? Are we putting anyone at risk by hiring that position? And if we hire that position, what does the future look like for them? Are they going to leave after a year, or is there really a clear career plan? And finally, okay, this is a dream position. They're going to solve all of those problems. Does that profile really exist? How much does that cost? Do we have that budget? Are they available? So those are some of the questions that we want to ask early on to make sure that we're getting into something that we can deliver. And it is, of course, easier to do it for a replacement, but it is not that easy because the context is changing with COVID. So my tip there would really be take a deep breath and understand, okay, what is the value that you can bring to a company? And I'm kind of advising you to change your perspective from time to time, not into being, okay, what is my dream job? What do I want to apply for? But rather, what companies would be interested in my profile? Like, what are the needs that I can fulfill? And then being selective once you know the value that you can bring. So we define the need, perfect, got approved, amazing. Let's go into the order taking. Let's tell the recruiter what exactly do you need. And that's when the hiring manager meets with the recruiter. It is a two-way conversation. We're of course going to give them feedback, tell them what we know about the market, and we're going to talk about the title. Should we call it training specialist or corporate trainer global? Why? Why not? Who is it going to report into? What is the budget? And for the budget, we not only look at, okay, how much does finance really want to give us, but what is internal equity? Especially in the context of COVID. And if I take the example of my team, if there are 4 people left and they're doing the job that in the past 9 people were doing, there's no way that we're going to bring someone with the same years of experience and pay them $10,000 more than someone who has been able to go through all of those challenges. So when you're negotiating and applying for jobs, like one thing to keep in mind is that there isn't always a lot of leeway, and it isn't always about the market, it's also about the internal equity. So we answer those questions. We look at also defining criteria, like what are the things that we're looking really to have. And here's an example of a scorecard that we defined, so an evaluation form for a DevOps role, where we said, okay, those are the various things that we want people, all interviewers to rate, like what is the knowledge of that person, Linux? Do they know about shell scripting? So we tried to define that early on. We defined the interviewing plan, who is going to be asking what do we want to test? Why is there a personality test in here? Does it make sense? And finally, once we have those answers, we go to the job post. And in the ideal world, the manager would be the one drafting the job post because they know exactly what the needs are. But in reality, they often don't have that habit. They don't have time to draft the job description, and they don't like doing it. So it often ends up being the recruiter drafting the job description. And that is something to keep in mind when something looks odd. And in my industry, things that I've noticed sometimes, and maybe I have done that too, is for a developer role, when you ask for 5 years of experience because you've been told by the manager that person needs to be senior, so okay, let's put 5 years. And then the candidate tells you, I don't have 5 years of experience with that framework because the framework has only existed for 3 years. And then it's like, oopsie. And it's not an oopsie of like, oh my God, that recruiter is so ignorant, that company, they don't know what they're doing. It's just a matter of the recruiter hasn't worked in the job, they don't know all frameworks. So it's okay sometimes to apply, even if a few things look odd, and it's okay to educate the recruiter into saying, I might not have the 5 years. I actually have 3 years, and that's probably the most that you're going to find on the market. So don't hesitate. Um, Other things, so sorry, I have to move this here so that I can actually see my screen. No, can't see it. In certain contexts, you can actually influence that job description. So don't hesitate to connect with people beforehand so that you can actually influence what people are going to be visualizing for the role. So perfect. We got the need to prove, we got the order taken, and now we're gonna distribute the role that we drafted. So we're gonna distribute it, and we're gonna look at people we know. So who are the people that have interacted with us in the past? Usually that should be the first reflex. Do we recall someone? Have we tagged someone in our system that looks relevant? Who are the LinkedIn connections that I know? Are there people that keep posting about really relevant topics for this role that I could reach out to? We look at new applicants too, and especially at employee referrals. We love employee referrals. I'm going to go into that. And we also source new people. So there are people that we're going to actively target on LinkedIn Recruiter, also going to show you a bit more about how that works. So referrals, we absolutely love them. And to get referred, the only thing you have to do is reach out to an employee, be able to get a conversation with that employee that shows that you're genuinely interested in the company and you have skills that would be applicable to a specific role or maybe several roles in the company. It is definitely a win-win situation because you get to learn about the company more than through a job posting and Glassdoor reviews. And it can be a win-win situation for the employer referring you because very often there are referral fees that are paid. So at Tractic, for instance, any employee who refers someone who gets hired and passes their probationary period is going to receive $2,000. That's amazing. And that is because we really value these referrals. Some people were also telling us, well, I don't always get detailed feedback when I get rejected. This is really frustrating. I don't know what I'm missing. So I just want to show you a little bit what it looks like in our applicant tracking software when someone applies. So this is for a role we posted a few days ago, training specialist. There were 9 applicants at the time. I had 15 minutes to review them because my day was back-to-back calls. And I had to, this is what I see. So LinkedIn profile, no LinkedIn profile, that's okay. Simplifies my life because it's formatted the same way. So it's not like a resume that really needs to be read in different ways. Why would you be a great training specialist at Tractic? I don't know. Didn't answer. A cover letter would be nice. It's not mandatory, but it's really great when you give the recruiter direction about your motivation and take the time to do it. And then it is really a split second, a few seconds of judgment. Like, does this person look relevant? Yes, no. I can advance them, in which case I'm going to be asked to schedule an interview as for their availability. I can skip and say, okay, don't want to make a decision. I'm not sure. I'm going to ask the manager. Or I can reject that person. And because I'm reviewing maybe 100 applications a day, I don't have time to write detailed feedback for everyone. So you'll probably get that kind of pre-canned rejection message that says, sorry, we have found better candidates, good luck, apply again. But something that will change that feedback is if you answer to the email address and say, I'm sorry, I really thought I was qualified. Can you help me understand what I'm lacking or what the people who you move forward with have? There's nothing, there's no risk. Like the only risk in answering back is that the person does not answer you. The other risk is that the rejection comes from a no reply email address, but you can always go on LinkedIn and approach a recruiter and ask for that feedback. And almost no one does it. So often we do answer and we do provide that feedback. Perfect. So we're reviewing applicants now. What happens next actually is more tips about how to be seen by recruiters. So one thing I was telling you about is when we look for new people, so new prospects, and that's when we're targeting people very precisely. I'm not going to go into, okay, how to optimize your LinkedIn profile, but I want to show you a little bit what I see as a recruiter. And it is that search bar that you see to the right where I can say, okay, start a new recruiter search, and I can use a bunch of criteria. But I can also use search by ideal candidates. So maybe I have worked with Peter in the past, or maybe Peter is an employee at my company, and I think he is the dream employee. I would just like to clone him. So I'm just saying, okay, Peter is my ideal candidate. Can you please clone him, LinkedIn? And what LinkedIn is going to do is it's going to pull all the keywords, the type of companies that this person has worked for, and it's going to generate a list of profiles that look alike. And that really helps me because I don't have to put as much effort into getting creative and I might discover keywords I haven't thought about. the way you can use that is actually looking at people that have the jobs that you're looking for and looking at the skills that they're listing that you know you already have or are working on, and trying to get inspired from that when you build your profile. So LinkedIn Recruiter, more things. So one question that came in is, do recruiters really only spend 10 seconds or maybe 8 seconds per resume? Yes, because of the volume of applications that we get. So to give you a bit of context, Tractic has 130 employees, and you can see the numbers there of applicants that we're getting every year. So 6,000 in 2018, 7,000 in 2019, 2020, even with the hiring freeze, 3,000 people applied. And I haven't been doing a lot of recruitment for this year. It's mostly Yuna, a colleague and a talent acquisition specialist. So she pretty much has reviewed 3,000 profiles herself. And you can't spend 5 minutes per profile. It's just not feasible. And I also want to walk you through a few more graphs. So I'm going to start with the one below, which represents the applications that we received last year. And you'll see that there are a few different sources. So third-party boards are people who apply via Indeed, Glassdoor, Monster, LinkedIn. And you'll see that this is most of our applications, like over 2,000 applications come in via those platforms. Company marketing, which is the next category, really represents people that applied via our website. It's also a lot of people, more than 1,000 people apply there. So volume is huge, but we do go through all of these applications. And then you have other sources. You have prospecting, so people we found through LinkedIn. Agencies are doing the exact same thing, but we outsourced it. And you see that there are less. And if you look at the graph, so the quality, which really represents how far they go into the interview process, there are less of them and they go further into the interview process. So we might prioritize those ones if we have to pick between job boards and prospection or agencies. And finally, you have referrals. You'll see them in the graph. There aren't that many. They don't always go to the very top, like they don't go to the last stages. But because there aren't that many, we might also give them a lot of attention, especially if we look at the other graph, the pie chart. And the pie chart is in 2019, what was the source of the people that we hired? And you have a tiny, tiny little like orange piece there that's like 1% of people that we actually found through events. But the rest of the graph is pretty much a third job boards, a third people that we prospected, and a third referrals. And why do we love referrals? Because they require a lot less work from the recruiter side. It is really the employee who is moving someone forward and vouching for them. And there aren't that many, so we can really focus on all of those referrals. So reach out to the employees, get referred. Job boards, we still go through them. It's 1/3 of our hires. Like we cannot ignore them. So we do go through every single application. But maybe we're more used to seeing people that are not relevant, not as prepared, that mass apply. So if you are applying through one of those job boards, make it really clear why you're relevant for the role. Prospection, another third of the hires, but it requires a lot of effort. I have to reach out to you on LinkedIn. I have to find you. I have to get you excited about the role, but I don't even know if you're a great fit for the role. So definitely not the least preferred of those options. Perfect. Getting there. Next step, you finally managed to get that interview. So I know that you've had other talks about this, but really the takeaways are always take an opportunity to interview. Maybe it will be just like me and you'll fall in love with the company, with the person hiring you, and your career will go in a direction you had not expected and you'll love it. Or maybe you'll just get more practice, but always be super prepared as if you really wanted the job, and then you'll have the ability to say, maybe not this time. And you're interviewing both ways, right? Like you're also making the decision, do I want to work for this company? After that, you might be presented with an offer. And before you're presented with an offer, most companies do run background checks. At Tractic, for instance, it is a criminal background check because we work in the security industry, so we can't have people with a record in certain roles, right? It could be references, and references are not only the 3 people that you're providing who adore you and are going to say a lot of great things. It could also be people that we notice are connected, like we have connections in common, and I know those people really well. I notice we worked at the same company, so I might proactively reach out to them without telling you. into saying, hey, by the way, how was that person? Like, we're looking for a similar profile. Do you have any feedback? So always make sure that you have people that know what you have been working on and how great you can be and what you're looking for in your career right now. And for the offer, if you get to the offer stage, just want to go back to salary might not be the only thing you can look at negotiating. Everyone asks for annual salary, like negotiation in there when they're negotiating, but no one asks for health insurance from day one, or very rarely. No one asks for stock options. And those are actually the things that are not very codified, where we have a little bit of wiggle room in some organizations. So be creative. Don't only think about base salary, and please negotiate. Especially statistically, if you're a woman, you're not going to negotiate as much, but there is really very limited risk if you're negotiating. Worst case, they say no, unless you're coming up with something really crazy and saying, I want to work in Spain and have 6 weeks of vacation, and we never talked about this. Please don't do that. But otherwise, go for it. Like, it is the time. Pre-onboarding, we're going to be sending you a bunch of documents. Please remain responsive. Really scares recruiters when you stop responding. And then be ready for your first day. So really take away, be flexible. Like, maybe you won't get that dream job that you are aiming for. Maybe you won't get the exact salary number you are looking for, and you should not get below a certain minimum that you define. But sometimes you can get into the company and say, okay, within 6 months, I'm going to prove them that I can rock this role and that I want a promotion or that I want to move laterally. Like, keep those opportunities in mind every time that you're applying. So I'm a little bit over time. I hope Peter does not get angry with me, but 3 takeaways really. Always be networking. Network with recruiters. Sometimes they will answer, sometimes they won't. Talk to the ones that will answer to you. Talk to hiring managers, talk to people who inspire you, and talk to employees, because they can refer you. Even if there's no position today, they can refer you in the future. Be flexible. You might not know what your next job is going to be, so keep your options open. Think about what needs you can solve for a company, and then be selective. And be persistent. It can feel like it's really long and it's never going to work out, but it is going to work out. I guarantee it. And you'll be so proud of all the efforts you made. So hope this is useful. Yay! Perfect. And I'm going to make Peter a presenter.
That
Peter,
was
it's your slide.
incredible, Claudia. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, everyone. And we'll take questions. And Peter, you now got the power to share your screen.
I have the power. Does anyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right, Rami, it's game time. All right, so
Sure.
hi everyone. So again, I'm going to introduce myself. So Peter Kerbalin, I'm one of the coaches at the Masters of Analytics, and I'm here with one of my students who just graduated. Rami, say hi.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
There you go. You're unmuted. Good. So we just wanted to go over. I just wanted to whip out the recruitment process. I think Claudia just went over this, but we wanted to just show. Claudia gave you the actual theory behind it, but we want to also give you how to put it in practice. And I want to give you someone who just did it, what, a month and a half ago, Remy?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a month and a half ago, and say, what opportunities did we find in the recruitment process? And then how can you maybe seize some opportunities and where you can, deliver. So Rami, ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, so, I'm
go
just gonna have to bug you at first. So Rami, you're working at Rogers Communications, correct?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
Been working there for about a month and a half.
Did you want to work in telecom?
So Peter always teases me about this, because the first time we kind of talked about this, he told me, where do you want to work? Like, what's your dream? And I was like, if it's not finance, like, let's not even talk. Like, I don't even want to hear it. And here I am working at Inter Communications now.
Yep. So that's one of the things. So when we were doing our coaching, Remy, at first you were a little. I remember I sent you the opportunity. You kind of looked at me like I was crazy, and then we went over the coaching situation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So let's go over the actual problem. So Rogers was in the middle of COVID, right? You got your job in the smack middle of COVID, right when it began. Rogers and all the telecommunications companies just kind of lost their minds. We have a great relationship at McGill University with Rogers and Bell and Huawei and all the other telecom companies. However, we didn't have access to them because everyone during COVID, the HR teams were all, like Claudia was saying, all just started running with their heads down. So we couldn't even really use the HR requirements, and we had to use the recruitment process and see where the peaks and valleys were, where we can use an opportunity, right?
Exactly.
So where did you think that we started from? If you look at the screen.
Wait, is that question to me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. If I look at the screen, I think we start looking at the job description.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think we also just got a question regarding it, so I'm going to answer this question at the same time. So someone was asking, how many skill sets do we need in the job description to apply for that job? So remember, we had that conversation as well, and we're like, hey, we don't really fit everything, and we started doing our research. So can you tell everyone kind of what we did in steps to try to take advantage of using the job description as something that we can take advantage of when applying?
Yes, of course. So something that I found out was that it's all about reverse engineering the job description, and that's something that Peter taught me and helped me with. So in reality, what we did is that we took the job description and really went through all the details and really tried to not only take the keywords, but also really try to understand the logic of why are they even asking for this? What is their main mission, on a bigger picture? And based on that, we talked, and these are basically the skill sets that whenever I went to the interview, that's what I talked about, and that's what they were amazed about, because they were like, oh my God, this is a perfect match. Well, in reality, it was just as simple as just understanding the job description.
Right, and just like Claudia was saying, let's even go back from the other two beginning. We had to understand how did this happen, and we talked about how the job description was probably made from a recruiter interviewing the hiring manager, and this is why there were holes and gaps, just like Claudia was saying. So when you came into the interview, you were much able to speak to the recruiter, trying to understand the requirements, and then speak to the manager in a different language. Can you maybe elaborate a bit on that?
Yes, of course. So I'm from the Masters of Analytics, so it's definitely something that is a little bit technical. So it's very important to know who your audience is. Someone who's maybe more from the HR side might care more about the achievements and maybe just make sure that you hit certain checkpoints, like, for example, skills. While in reality, maybe the managers that are a little bit more technical might be more interested in how you worked on a certain project and maybe talk more about the technicality and more about the results, but more of the things that they care about from a business side in comparison maybe to the HR, that maybe make sure just that, okay, this is a person that we might push forward to the next stage.
Awesome. So then you had your phone interview. So a lot of people are going to probably ask, well, during the phone interview, is it a little bit different than an in-person interview? So what do you think? What were you asked during the phone interview?
Oh, that's a good question. So the job position I was interviewing for was a senior position. So it was very high level in terms of what are your achievements and what do you know and how did you deal in certain how do you deal with certain scenarios and things like that. But what I noticed that it was at the end of the day, even though it might have been a little bit technical also, it was at the end of the day to make sure that I would be a good fit in the team that maybe I would be able to go to.
So can you elaborate on some of the questions, maybe the high level ones and maybe not the technical ones?
Yeah. So one of the questions, it's related to data, but one of the questions was, how did you act whenever there was a change in the strategy of the data and the strategy of the project, and how did you act on that, and how did you talk to your stakeholders? How did you, also another question is, tell me about a time where you convinced someone about something. And that is always a tricky question, because you tend to think that it's a pretty easy question, but you really have to give good examples. And it's one of the questions, some questions are just so obvious, I knew I would get asked, and it's always good to do some preparing before and really have some standard, I call them standard answers, that you can maybe choose for different types of questions that at the end of the day kind of like converge to the same question, if that makes sense.
So I'm going to just go a little rogue on this one. So on the short list for everyone understanding is you kind of have this pyramid, everyone, where like you have different sources, coming to the job, as we were all talking about before. Thank you for Claudia for demonstrating that and the sources. But you have people coming in from the recruiter, you have people coming in from from the headhunters, you have some of the referrals. At the end of the day, there's a short list given to the hiring manager. And we're going to get to some of the questions, and I see some of them coming in right now. But the ideal position to get to for them to know you is the hiring manager, or someone who can put you on the short list of the hiring manager, which is the recruiter or a team member. So I think this is where that is the main part where you want to go, because that short list is the one who gets interviewed. And I think we just want to make sure, and that's why it's highlighted in yellow. So Rami, the good news is you were part of that short list.
Exactly.
And then you had the in-person and technical interviews. This is a little bit optional. So because we're such in a big area of different, so we have some legal, we have some people in pharmacology, we have people all over the place here at McGill and on this webinar. So let's just go right to the pre-hiring process and the offer. So Claudia gave a little bit, some insight about maybe just not going just for the salary. So do you remember when you were doing your offer and you were doing the haggling and going back and forth? Do you remember what you were asked for, what we coached you to ask for, and different ideas? And maybe you can give some examples to some of this.
Yeah, of course. I think that the thing that sticks out the most to me was that Peter actually told me, talk about the training budget. And I was just like, what? Like, I was thinking about the money and all those things, of course, like Claudia was saying earlier. But then I was like, training budget. And I'll tell Peter actually say why training is something that is worth talking about.
Well, so the reason why I was telling Rami the training budget is because, like Claudia was saying, when they have internal equity and they have these bands in most companies says, I can't pay you based on this. So if, let's say you have 5 years experience and a bachelor's, this person has a master's and 3 years. Well, there's internal equity where they'll think that the master's is maybe X amount of years. So there's all these rules in a company. So we can talk about definitely that in the Q&A. But so the salary is very fixed. Maybe you can get maybe a 2%, 3% if you're really good at negotiation. But when you get to training budget, when you get to, travel budget, when that was pre-COVID, when you get to starting insurance day one, Claudia, that's a great one. I've actually haven't thought of that, so that's great. Or any small things that there's not really a rule written down. These are great things that recruiters can go, well, this is easy. I can just approve this because there's no real process for it. And if there's no process for it, this is where you can normally take advantage. And this is exactly why we want to show the recruitment process. And this is why we're making this whole webinar, is because if you can understand the process, no matter what industry you're in, you can always use it, and leverage it to get that position or get that extra salary or get that extra offer. And I think that's what we just want to make sure we talk about. So Rami, do you have anything else that you want to add before we go to Q&A?
No, I guess you can jump to Q&A and maybe I can fill in if there's something specific that someone wants to know.
All right, so let's just do that. All right, so Q&A time. Claudia, do you have anything to add before we go Q&A?
Nope, very excited.
Let's do it. All right, so, whoa, do I still have my thing slide? No, okay. So, so my first question is, I saw a few, Dal sent a few questions already. So when I see a job posting, what is the best way to contact the hiring party to make my CV stand out? Do they get bothered if I call them directly to inquire about the job show that I'm interested? Wait, Claudia, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I can tell you a bit about that. So I showed you a little bit about what we see in the what we call the ATS, the Applicant Tracking software, and that's really the software where we receive all application. It is. I love the ATS that we have. It's Greenhouse. It's all centralized, which means that if I say, okay, I'm going to review the training specialist applications today, I'm going to take half an hour. I'm going to go into that one location and I'm going to say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. If you don't send your resume through that traditional channel, it is going to make my life harder because I have to keep track of, did you email me? Did you LinkedIn me? What did you do? So I'd say that in all cases, get it through the traditional channel and then get the reminder, the refresher into saying, by the way, Claudia, I applied this morning. You don't know me, but I'm really interested. No, 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 no. And worst case situation, like you're emailing me, like I am an individual, like we're two individuals. If I reject you, I'm at least going to tell you, sorry, not enough years of experience, didn't work out. So at least you're gonna get some feedback. If it is an employee, I'm gonna give them even more feedback because I love an employees. I want them to stick around. So apply through the normal channel and then follow up with someone. But don't call me right away.
Okay, so I'm going to give some free coaching to everyone. So yes, Claudia is right. You always put the CV through the ATS, always, and make sure if it's through ATS, you have to make sure there's no charts, there's nothing crazy on it because sometimes it doesn't get read. So keep it very, very basic. You know, your name, your title, you know, your address. Well, no address anymore. They took that out, but you know, stuff like that. Just very, very basic information, and then reach out to the hiring manager and the team members, 2 team members that you think that you'd be working with or have your job. Okay. And then by that, they'll get to talk to you and you should ask them. So the manager, you should be asking, what is the strategy for the team for the next year? You know, where does the team need help? You know, what can I do to help the team? And then for the team members, you should ask, what kind of projects are you working on? And again, if you had a new team member, what would you love that they can do? Okay, and when that happens, you get a lot of information. Yeah. Okay, the manager's going to love you because that's all they want to do, and the team members are going to pretty much run to the manager, run through recruitment, saying you have to hire that person. Plus, if there's internal payments, they can also get paid for bringing you in. So that's another thing that's also very key. So that's normally where I kind of hack it. So normally I would reach out to them, and then 2 days later I would reach out to the recruiter. Hopefully your name made it across to the recruiter. And then the recruiter goes, Peter? Well, I must hire Peter. Okay, and you create a lot of bias when you come in and they're looking at your name. So Claudia, that's kind of what I coach the students. What do you think?
That's amazing because no one does that. And if I have 2 people in the team telling me about that person, even if I rejected them because I might have read the CV too fast, or it didn't look like they were a fit, but they demonstrated it. If 3 people come to me or 1 person comes to me, definitely gonna talk to them at least.
All right, so there's also a B part of the conversation. Do you recommend reaching out to senior employees in the company or someone just in the same position, or just stick to HR?
Reach out to whoever answers you because you will probably not get an answer right away. And don't reach out to 50 people because otherwise they're going to all be talking about like, who's this person? They're a bit aggressive. But go, try.
I would, yeah, so honestly, it doesn't matter who, but I would normally say the people at your level right out of school, no one talks to. So whenever they get a message, they're like, I have a person, and they don't let go. So it's a great opportunity where if you go to like a CEO or you go to the CMO, they're probably gonna just pass you down. I would just kind of think about that.
Yeah, I just wanna say that what Peter said, definitely true. I just started receiving some messages and like I'm genuinely helping everyone I can just because I'm so new and I'm like ready to help everyone. So what Peter said, very, very true. Like definitely someone your level, if someone that just graduated and stuff, they will understand the struggle more than some other people. So they will be more likely to help.
All right, so we're gonna go to the next question. So I'll ask, actually, Rami, you're gonna be up for it because we talked about this. Are cover letters necessary, and is cold emailing effective during these times?
Oh, I don't remember the answer to that, but I don't think that cover letters were like that important. I might be wrong, but yeah, that would be my answer. That cover letters are not as important as people would think.
All right, so guys, I'm disappointed. My student doesn't remember anything that we taught him anymore because he got his job. But Claudia, he got the job. He's like, I'm done now. I don't need
yeah, I forgot already.
So Claudia, so cover letters. Do you want to just talk about that and cold emailing?
Sure. So let's go back into my context. I don't know if I told you about the talent acquisition job. 1 week, 100 applications. I'm reading these applications. The cover letter, if there is one, I'm going to read it because it's rare that there is one, but you're adding more reading. And if it's good, I am glad to read you. If it's not good, please do not include it. If it's too long, please do not include it. I'd rather have a very detailed LinkedIn message that says, I love your company, love the culture, I can do this and that. Can we please talk? I'm so excited. Rather than, here's a formatted cover letter, dear sir, madam. Please never write a cover letter that says dear sir, madam, ever. Like, you can find my name. So I'd say the motivation is important. The cover letter per se as a formatted cover letter, not important in my industry. Maybe in a legal firm, maybe in some larger companies it is a must and they require it, but that has not been my experience in terms of the time that you spend reading it, especially if it's not good.
So I would add, guys, the cover letter has kind of changed a bit. Normally, the cover letter is normally your LinkedIn message reaching out, or it's pretty much that. So I would normally just be like, so if it was to Claudia, like, hi Claudia, my name is Peter Kribalian. I graduated at McGill University in X. I saw a position Y, and I would have these three bullet points. I just recently applied. It's in your ATS system, and I would love to have a conversation with you in the next upcoming week. Claudia would be like, I love you, thank you very much. Okay, it helps. It shows that you're ready to reach out. It shows that you have a function aspect. You're in the process, so she can't say, because the worst thing is for Claudia, imagine she likes you, she goes, oh, well, can you apply? And then she has to put your CV into the system, and then you see, and she's the nicest person. I wanted the nicest person I know, and she went. So make sure you make it easier for the recruiters. So I just want to bring that up. Just going into questions. I'm trying to go rapid fire because we have a lot of questions. By the way, we have over 100 questions. I have a gap in my resume since I was laid off back in March. How is it perceived by recruiters and employers? Claudia?
So many people were laid off in March. It's okay to be laid off in March. Everyone is going to have a gap, but you can write it in the resume. Some people do that, and they said, like, reason for departures, I was laid off, still super motivated. You can explain it in your LinkedIn. It's all right. You can add the explanation. If you went on mat leave, you can also write it down. So we don't wonder what you were doing. I mean, amazing. You were taking care of a kid, like, good for you. Or path leave, whatever you were doing, traveling.
Yeah.
No problem.
Well, like Steph said in 2 episodes ago, we're not going to forget what COVID was. No one's going to forget, right? So if you do have a jump, the main question is always going to be in your interview. Just remember, what did you do during COVID? And the answer cannot be, I was watching Netflix and I was watching a friend's marathon. Please don't do that. Like, it has to be, what did you do? Did you help people? And it could be anything. Just what did you do? Was it learning? Was it reading? Was it helping your mental health? Anything. You're just going to have to be ready to express that.
And I think it's interesting that you're pointing to mental health, because sometimes people have a lot of pressure in saying I was laid off, and those people have learned 5 languages and I haven't really anything concrete. That's okay. Like, COVID was super hard. So it's okay that you're saying I took some time with my family. That's okay.
All right. So now we're talking about the ATS. So do recruiters also use keyword search in the ATS?
Yes. So recall when we posted the job and we were like, what are the applicants that we know? That's the first thing that we should be doing. Here are the keywords. And we look at keywords. We also tag candidates when we talk to them. So maybe we talked to you last year and we were like, not interested, but they have all of the skills. So yes, we will look at keywords.
Yeah, and going to Rami's point, Rami, if you want to go back into it, so reverse engineering, and you want to kind of go into it exactly, and even the joke that we found, how many keywords did we pull from Rogers? From looking at that team, we knew what infrastructure they had. We knew it.
Oh yeah. So the good thing about the ATS system is that it's so easy to hack and reverse engineer it. That's the best part. But yeah, for Rogers, I think they definitely did hit every single thing that you can ever imagine, whether it was technical, data, project management, budget, accounting, finance, and we're just like, oh my God, like, where do we even go? But we definitely picked the ones that, like, we knew like it was an issue for them that they definitely did need, and we put it in there and it passed. So it's, like I said, it's pretty easy to hack, and there's like a lot of websites that can check the similarity between your CV and a job posting. So it gives you a good understanding of how you're doing for that job.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of go into like a B part of that question again. So what is the minimum number of skills requirements on a job description you should meet before applying? I know Claudia has something interesting she wants to say about this because we're talking about before we went live. So
Sure.
Claudia.
I am not sure who did the study, but I think it was LinkedIn that proved that women tend to apply if they meet 100% of the skills. Bloop, 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 bloop. Do I have everything? Yes, I can apply. If not, no, I can't apply. And men apply when they meet 60% of the skills. And 60% is okay if you can demonstrate that you have some of the other skills or that you can acquire them. So it's okay if you're not meeting all of the skills. 60% shouldn't be like a rule of thumb. Like if you have more, it's better, but you don't need to have every single thing. If you have every single thing, you look really perfect on paper, but then I'm going to wonder about your career growth. Like this is a role today. Are you going to be bored? Like what am I going to do with you? Are you going to leave in 3 months and be asked me to change roles? I'd rather have someone who's missing something and is going to be really motivated to learn it and fit my budget rather than someone who's like, I've been doing this for 15 years, definitely know how to do that. And maybe I need that person, but maybe I don't.
So something key that Claudia just said, by the way, is fit my budget, especially in a post, well, we're still in COVID, but during COVID, that's exactly something really big right now. So that's one thing, Claudia, thank you for saying that. Another thing that I want to add as well to this is on the job description, the important tasks and responsibilities are in order, because that's just how people think. They put the important things in order, especially when they take requirements, such as a recruiter taking requirements from a hiring manager. The important things go first. So if you hit 1, 2, 4, 6, you're good. You know, if you hit 1 and 2, you're good, in my opinion. Like if you hit 1 and 2, that's all you really need to talk to. Those are the things that they're going to be very biased about that you have, especially if they're very niche skill sets. Rami, you want to jump in? I see you nodding. You want to jump in anything?
Yeah, I was just gonna say if it's also skills that it's kind of enough to also know what it is. I'm thinking more about if it's like something related to data. It's always good to do a little bit of research. So even though you say that you don't know these skills, you at least know the mentality or the logic behind it. This is something that everyone always appreciates. It's like know what is out there. So if you show them that, that will help you a lot too.
Or that you know where to get the course, or you know where to get the information, or you know where
exactly.
Right? Because that's the hardest part. Because at work, guys, I'll give you guys a cheat for most of the people in analytics and in programming. All of us have a screen where you can't see my hand. A screen here for like Google and searches and you know Stack Overflow. Because it's not all in our head and we're just typing and we're just like, oh, I'm the best coder ever. No. There's another screen here that we search stuff and then we go, man, it's broken, and we go back and forth. And it doesn't mean that we don't know it, we just don't memorize it. And it's the same thing, you have to have the same mentality if you're in law, if you're in pharmacology, if you're in engineering. You don't memorize it, you just need to know where to get the information. And we want that to make sure that people understand that, especially at work. Another thing I want to ask, I see, what is the best way to make an impression in today's non-personal interview process? Does anyone want to jump in?
I go into the be authentic. Like I sometimes, you're you and you're awesome. I don't know if you're aware, but please be aware. And you might not be awesome for each company in every single role, but that's kind of the job that you have to do. Like, what can I bring to them that maybe not 1,000 people can bring, or maybe few people can bring it, but going back into the salary, maybe those people have 10 years of experience and we can't afford them. And we'd love to have someone that we can actually grow and coach within the company. And going into that authenticity, it could be about being memorable and just being personable and etc. But it can also be in the questions. Very often or not very often, but sometimes I see a few questions that are very canned, and it's like, what should you ask a recruiter? And like, should you ask a recruiter about this and that? And you don't care about the answer. Why are you asking me that? It's like, you went to the same website to ask that question. Like, ask me what you really wonder about, because it's going to help you. It's going to intrigue me into saying, oh, interesting. And it doesn't need to be something unique. It just needs to be genuine. That is very memorable already.
Jeremy?
No, I'm just learning so much, honestly, that I'm just like nodding. I completely agree. I'm glad to be here and to learn also these things.
Yeah, so just to add, hiring is all about trust, everyone. It's that basic. So you just need to make sure that you say something that makes people trust you. And that is normally, like I said, Claudia was saying, authenticity, showing vulnerability is huge as well. I remember even the first time so my first job was at Pratt & Whitney, Canada. I was a finance student in an engineering firm, and they asked me, what do you know about aviation? And I was like, like literally straight up. And the manager was like, excuse me? And I was like, nothing. And they're like, all right. And I'm like, do you have training? And they're like, we do. And they're like, can I do it? And they're like, you got the job. Like it was that awkward. So I was very honest. I was very brutal, but I wanted the training. And he told me later, he's like, no one asked for training. I was about to kick you out until you asked for training. So, you know, be authentic. Just tell them that you want it. And one thing I also want to add, I think one of the things that I was telling our students is people want you to want to work for them. So if you're let's say wanting consulting, if you're wanting to be in whatever field and you say I want to work in this industry, it doesn't come off well. Okay, but if you go I want to work for you, it helps a lot better. It's kind of like being on a date. If you're like I want to go out with a female who's 5'7" and brown hair, is like and you fit the bill today, like it won't go well. So you know, and so normally when I say is when you're in that interview phase and they go, hey, tell me about yourselves. Tell them about the journey you've been, how you graduated, why you chose something, how you're there. But finish with saying, you know, that's about me. But if you want to know about my future or my present, I want to be X role at your company. Tell them straight up, and then most of them will be like,
yep,
okay. That's it, because no one says it. No one says I want this job. It's very rare. So it just puts that brain says, oh, if they do want this job, maybe it's not something else they want. So I just want to give some free advice on that one. Do recruiters know? Questions? Could you give us some tips on how to strike a conversation with employees or weak connections on LinkedIn to bring up a topic of referral? This is going to be a fun one.
I'd love to actually ask Rami, because you're saying that a lot of people are approaching you. Who are you answering first, and why are you answering?
So a lot of people that I'm talking to are people that I already know also, so it's not as exciting. But some other people reached out and just said that they really do want to work at Rogers because they really believe in like what they do and the 5G and all that stuff that maybe is going on that they're interested in, and they usually also let me know a little bit about themselves. If it's like related to data, it's like, oh, I code in Python, I did this, I did that. Here's my GitHub or my portfolio of work. And we just strike it from there. And usually also, I really like to answer questions that are a little bit more philosophical, not so straightforward, like the more philosophical questions where you sometimes feel like the person is genuinely wants to ask you as someone that knows a lot in this field and like really ask you a question about that rather than just like the usual, you know, like, oh, how's the company, how's that stuff. It's like, okay, this is stuff that we heard a lot, but if you ask something new, that's always very, very appreciated.
I tend to see also go for things that you have in common. Like I notice you speak Spanish, hola, or you volunteer with people in a situation of homelessness. So interesting. This is Anana. Like, you've read my profile. Thank you very much. We have something in common. Oh my God, let's talk Spanish or connect. Like that builds a connection right away. And it's really easy. Like we both studied at McGill. I mean, yay. I don't know how many thousands we are at, but super easy.
Yeah. And what Claudia is saying is just what we said before. It's about trust, right? It like when we say, oh, I studied at McGill, you'd be like, eh. But if you go to like Japan and someone goes wearing a McGill shirt, you're gonna be like, oh my God, me too. Like it's just, it's a different world. Like I know we're in Montreal or in Toronto or somewhere in Canada or wherever we are, but when you're somewhere else in a strange environment when you feel alone and you see someone else who's similar to you, you normally cling. So, I'm sure if, you speak Arabic to Rami will be like, they're like, marhaba, let's go, bang, right away.
Exactly.
That's all my Arabic, by the way. But, so going back to on LinkedIn, do they make content? So if they make content, try to give back to the content, try to say, I really, I felt something with that content, and talk about it when you reach out. Are they in a group, on LinkedIn or on something? Did you, I don't know, did you see them do a cool project when you researched their, are they connected to a friend of yours and then you found out from your friend that, I don't know, they like dragon boat racing. I don't know. Like you laugh how crazy it is of these small things happen. I remember one of our students getting a job because they like golf. At the end of the meeting, it said golf on the resume. It's like, you play golf? It's like, we do. It's like, we play golf here. It's like, cool. It's sad, but these things help. So find something in common, make trust, because at the end of the day, if we trust you, we will just trust you to learn whatever we need. And that's how businesses think. Like you need a basic foundation of skills, and then the rest, which is like 60% of it, is mainly based on trust or anything or I think that you can learn. Going into it, how do we find the contact info of the right person to follow up by email, i.e. the hiring manager, the 2 employees we should work with? All right, so I would say we have a recording of the LinkedIn workshop, but we'll still answer it anyway. Claudia, how would you find 2 employees or hiring managers?
Who's a hiring manager? I'd play around with the title, so I'd really go on LinkedIn.
Yep.
You might not need the email address, but usually the email address, once you understand the structure of the email address, it's not that hard. Like first name dot last name, or you can try a few permutations at the company.com. But yeah, titles, reaching out, trying one person maybe.
Okay, so yeah, I would just type in keywords, same thing, manager, what is that, semicolon? Yeah, semicolon, manager, semicolon, job, whatever title you are, or your exact title in the company. I would then also search for people who went to McGill at the same time. So in the filters, I would put McGill with the same thing. I would also look for things that are connected. So if, let's say, we work as a data analyst, well, I'm going to look for the data engineer, or I'm going to look for the UI guy. If you're, a paralegal, you want to look for a lawyer. If you're, you want to look for who's part of it, your flow, let's say, and then see how you can give value. One of the ones that we keep getting these questions is, as a recent grad, I don't feel like I qualify for most job postings I see, even though they're entry level, put entry level brackets. I see even though that they're entry level a few months, and I'm starting to lose confidence. I have been making the time to upskill, get certified, and volunteer. What do you recommend I do to get over this unemployment hump and finally land my first job?
Don't lose hope. You are going to find something. So one thing to keep in mind with the entry level, and when we go into ATS, most of our jobs are pulled automatically from the ATS into LinkedIn, as an example. They're pulled automatically to Monster, Indeed, Glassdoor, and then it is the receiving platform that says, oh, that looks entry level, and then they sort it and they say that's entry level. But maybe we didn't mean it to be entry level. And so that might be one first discrepancy. Then the other thing, if you've been doing all of these amazing things and you're not getting through, it could be the resume, or it could just be that you need to talk to somebody. So I would still apply all of the other advice, like get in touch, get connected, get referred. And maybe broaden your scope of the companies that you're approaching. If you're approaching, I don't know, like consulting companies, and they really want a certain type of profile that you don't fit exactly what they're looking for, sometimes it's a bit harder to open the mind of the recruiter because they might be getting a lot of CVs that fit their traditional they went to the school and they did this and that. So you might need to open up and try going through something else first to ultimately go there, or try to get that personal connection with an employee.
So I'll give two things. Sorry for a shameless plug, but I got really mad because I got some students asking me this question. I got really mad one day because I heard someone else give really bad advice to this question. So I wrote an article in a very angry way on LinkedIn. So sorry for the plug, but message me. I'll give it to you if you wrote that question. Literally, it's a step-by-step how to get a job. Two different ways. There's paths. It's like 10 pages long. That's that. Going on to the other side, don't be afraid. The students that I know that are having a hard time finding a job right now are because they have a sunk cost bias when looking for a job. So they studied X and they're trying to find a job for X. They wanted to work in Y and now they only want to work in Y. COVID literally pretty much made a line in the sand and said, these business models are working, these are dead, and it just accelerated everything. There's just some industries that are gonna be, some are just dead, as you know, some are gonna die by 1,000 paper cuts. Look at aviation, it's gonna be hurting for a long time. And then there's some industries that Apple doubled in COVID, for example. So just understand which industries are moving. Try to make sure you're saying that you're upscaling and getting certified. Great. My question is, okay, who are you talking to and how are you going to demonstrate what you're learning? I think that's always the hardest part. So if it's technology wise, look at Kaggle exercises. So not Kegel. It's two different things. So Kaggle. It's a website you can just do these like hackathons and things like that. If it's just other things, just try to demonstrate it. And please post on LinkedIn. I know, and everyone, if you've been to every of these webinars, you're gonna be like, Peter, I'm sick of it. But seriously, post on LinkedIn. There's so many views, no one posts, just like 1%. If whatever you study, whatever you love, just talk about it. And I promise you in a month, if you do it every week for a month, I promise you, you'll have 1,000 people, and that's 1,000 more people every time you post that you would never had before. And at the companies that you like. So if it's in engineering, at the companies. If it's in pharmaceuticals, at the companies. At Merck. At that other crazy name, I forget that long one. No, at them, have fun, and they will view it all the time because no one's adding them. Next one, I know we're running out of time. I'm currently an undergrad in my second last year. I'm not really sure what career I liked after school. None of us knew 2 years after university, so don't feel strange, but we're still going to answer your question. What's the best way to start building my resume to prepare for a career in professional industry, which I don't know what it is going to be? Honestly, learn to be valuable. That's my example. So Claudia, I saw your hand go up. Just try to answer.
Oh, I was just like, just list down like who you are and learn to be valuable.
Yep.
I'd go back into that perspective of like it's not so much like make yourself useful, but rather understand what are the problems that you can solve and don't limit the scope of those problems. Like, what can I do in general and not what I want to do? Like, what are the skills? What are the jobs that require those skills? And look at them because you might not imagine that they exist. And then you can say, nah, definitely not doing this. But don't do the reverse right now.
I would just say look at also job descriptions and like that company or that job that you really want and just start matching them. If it's in tech, it's going to be kind of hard to fly into that because every 6 months it changes, but it is what it is. Claudia, I know you had a list of 4 questions. I want to give you time for 2 of them. Sorry about that. I was just going off.
I think we did answer most of them. We answered most of them, all of them.
All right.
I guess, maybe one last one. Someone asked in the registration about why do companies use personality tests?
Yes.
So I can tell you about Tractic. I don't know about all companies. At Tractic, we use what we call actually a behavioral assessment called predictive index. Predictive index is a behavioral assessment that measures your inner needs. So needs cause you to have drives, cause you to have behaviors. When we interview you and when you tell us about what you have done, you tell us about your behaviors. We can have any behavior. It doesn't matter what you feel, you can do anything. But you still have that inner drive that says, I prefer talking to people and I'm gonna be mostly sad if I'm not talking to people most of the time, or it's going to require a lot of effort for me to talk to people. Can you do it? Yes. Are you going to be exhausted at the end of the day? Yes. So when we're looking at those PI, there isn't a right or a wrong answer where we're saying, well, we want someone that is this, and that, and we only hire people that have this, and that. What we do is we talk to the hiring manager and we look at, okay, is this someone who's mostly going to be solving problems? Is this something like a role for which you require a lot of repetitiveness and attention to detail? Or on the other hand, like on the recruitment, I mean, attention to detail, amazing if you have it, but it's mostly how do you deal with the hiring managers? How do you maintain relationships? And we build a target profile for a role. And that target profile says people who have those inner needs to be in contact with people, to have repetitive things, will have an easier time adjusting. And then we look at yours. And again, we know that you can do anything. You can adjust all of your behaviors, but we also know that your needs, your drives are maybe going to be at the opposite. Maybe they're going to be in the middle. Like you meet some of the things, but not all of them. And that's okay. And maybe you exactly have the needs for the behaviors we want to see. And we compare that. Um, will we fail someone and say, okay, we're not moving forward because you don't have the right needs to succeed in that job? We could sometimes, because we just know it's going to take twice the effort for you every day to show up to work and do that work than someone who has those inner drives. Is it perfect? No. Like, is that like behavioral assessment perfect, scientifically validated, the best in the world? Absolutely not. But it's the best thing that we have and that we trust. So that's why we ask you to do it. Other companies might ask you for other reason. Ask them, why are you asking me this? And the answers that we give is, okay, it is for that purpose. We're also going to use this as a coaching tool so that when you join and the manager has a very like, I'm going to write you everything you need to do, but you're more of a like you listen to instructions better than you read them, then the manager can see that and adjust to your specific learning style. So always ask. And that was one example.
Oh, that's great, Claudia. And one thing I was just trying to remember at the same time, Claudia is saying this. She was talking about personality, and it just came up to me. A lot of people try to fit in. I'm going to say, and as don't do it.
Don't
Like,
do it.
so I would even say in the beginning, right out of school, I would even tell you don't even go to the industry you studied, because you'll learn a lot more going to the opposite industries. Using the same things that you learned in other industries make you a complete unicorn, dragon, whatever you want to call yourself. Like Rami with his finance background and analytics and telecom, there's no Rami at Rogers. There is no Rami. I know that. There is no Rami at Rogers. And Rogers is huge. Like when just the same as me, financial and analytics at Pratt Whitney, there was no Peter. Like it's a joke. And because of that, you take these big jumps and big steps, and everyone notices you because you're just standing around. So I want to give you that feedback, because when you are different, you are going to stand out more to a recruiter, especially if a mechanical engineer applies to a bank. I'm sure the recruiters are going to talk about you. I promise you. They'll probably want to hire you just to see who you are.
Exactly.
How do you present the mental health issues? Should they be mentioned upfront or only if asked? Claudia, I think that's you. I'm not trained on that.
You can decide to present what shows you in your best light. And mental health is nothing to be ashamed of. Like I had some issues, etc. But that's not the first thing you need to bring up. If you need to explain a gap, like there are ways to phrase it. You can also choose your audience, and sometimes you'll see that on the careers pages they talk about mental health, or they talk about this and that, and that gives you a sign of like, okay, they're probably open about this. And maybe they're not there yet because it's a journey. So I wouldn't proactively disclose anything that you're not asked. The same way I'm not disclosing my sexual orientation or where my passport is from. And you should not ask me that. So no. So yeah. So I wouldn't lie about things, but you can always frame them in a different way, and you can also yeah, know your audience and don't be ashamed. Like that, it's not. It's showing you in the best light. It's not that you should be ashamed of.
All right, so Abdel, I know this is normally where I'm surprised I haven't got a text. So I think we hit most of the questions. So
We have. It's just been such a great session. We've been just taking notes. Peter, I guess before we wrap up, then I'd ask perhaps all three of you to share one piece of parting advice to the attendees. And I want to start off with Remy.
Yeah. Okay. Let me go first. I would say really like don't lose hope and don't get demotivated because it was tough. Like before I got my job, I promise you, I was back home in Egypt and I was asking Peter, should I just come back in January? Like, there's no way I'm getting a job because every time I look at LinkedIn, there's like one new job per day, and I was like, there's millions of people trying to get that job. Like, why would they take me? And that was absolutely not true because after I was like genuinely thinking of not coming back to Canada for 6 months, I literally got a job the week later and I went back to Canada. So I was like, what the hell's going on? So seriously, like I know it's hard and it's very demotivating to like not get answers and stuff, but seriously, like keep going. Don't let it affect you.
ladies first, Claudia.
Yay! I was gonna go with the same advice, like don't give up, minus the Egypt part, but yeah. But another piece of advice is if you're only seeing one job a day, like there isn't much moving, take the opportunity to be curious and learn. And it's not only about get that course, but connect with people and be genuinely curious about what they do. And you're gonna start building these connections. Some people have more time, like recruiters in April and May, those who were still employed, they had plenty of time because there weren't roles open. And there were so many of them who were posting online into saying, if you need career advice, like now is the time to reach me. Like I'm not doing anything right now and I have to justify my job. So please talk to me. I don't think it's the case as much right now, but you have time to reach out to people. Go for it, build those connections, and they will remember you if you are genuine about really getting to know them and building those connections.
Yeah. So thank you, Claudia. Abdel, I got a curveball. I just got a message from Kay. So there's just one question. I'm going to answer this, and then we'll get into the last. So the question is, could I ask why we should include image in a CV? Is it because it's flashy or is it bad for the ATS? I'll just explain to you. So an ATS, for the keyword search, how it's run is kind of like a bad OCR algorithm. So let's not get technical, but pretty much it's trying to read your words. Through a PDF. There's not many companies that can do that. Nuance is like the big PDF reader in general that converts PDFs. So ATSs are not really good at it, sorry to say. So when you have a graph, sometimes like Claudia is gonna start seeing like these like percentage dollar sign, hashtag sign, like it's gonna just go wonky depending on what ATS people see. It doesn't translate the graph. So what I would normally say to our students is keep it very simple for an ATS format because the computer is reading it. A computer doesn't care what it looks like per se. And then when you go to your interview, if because you do have a chart or you have something funky on it, bring it to your interview and give it to you because you should give out your CV just like it is in person. So when you have that interview, you'll have everyone's email and be like, here's an updated version of my CV, and that's where you have your chart. Because that the chart should be given. And that's my 2 cents. Claudia, you want to chime in before I give my last words?
Sure. I think we saw one of the attendees who was looking for a job in I can't recall if it was an illustration or something
Yep.
artistic, and that might be different in those industries. But as a rule of thumb, as long as your CV is readable, we don't care if it's in 1 page, 2 page, if it's in red or in blue. We just want it to be readable. Same for the ATS.
Yep.
you can email that graph, that layout, whatever that is. And if it is important, we will have something where you can upload it. For graphic designers, there's a portfolio section, and we're going to download all of them to make sure they're readable. But otherwise, like black and white works, and or blue, whatever, but readable.
Yeah, and no white text in ATS, you could get flagged. Sorry, it's another thing I wanted to give heads up to.
Never seen that.
Yeah, no
Maybe
white
because I
text
couldn't
in
see
some,
it. Yeah.
well, white text, but the computer will, and some ATSs give bad marks on that. So that's my last thing. So just to give feedback on my last words, please, if you're willing, make content on LinkedIn, and every time you apply for a job, please try to find your hiring manager, look for someone working in that field or department, ask, and if it's not them, they'll say if it's not them, and then they may push you to the right person. So look for the hiring manager and 2 employees and a recruiter every time you apply. I'd rather you do that once a day, 1 job a day doing that, than 100 random CVs to 100 companies. So I promise, if you do it that way, 1 application for a job that you can do for, reach out to 4 people for a day for a month, you do that for a month, I promise you'll have a job. Promise you. I promise you, and your network would have grown by at least like 20 people.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Peter, for that. Well, we've come to the end of the session. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us, all of our attendees. We do hope you're leaving with some valuable insights to help you navigate your career path, be it the start of that journey or a little bit further on. I wanted to share just some of my takeaways from the session from these incredible speakers. Firstly, reach out to recruiters, even if you've been rejected, learn about what you can improve and potentially uncover more opportunities. So don't be shy. When it comes to negotiation, almost everyone automatically thinks about salary, but expand beyond that, as was mentioned by Peter and by Claudia. Think about training budget, think about stock options, health plans, etc. And always negotiate. I know we got a few questions like, are you sure we should negotiate?
Yes.
Like, what if I lose the job? Like, we got to think 3 or 4 of those questions.
They spend so much money finding you that they don't care about 2%. I promise you.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we say, no, we can't, but you asked and we know that you're interested in more. We can say no. We say no all the time. Don't worry.
Be sure to ask. Absolutely. When it just recap also of Claudia's presentation, her takeaways were always be networking, be flexible, be persistent. I think those are extremely valuable. When it comes to job applications, start off with the formal path. There are systems in place and processes, and then follow up with the recruiters. And don't be shy to reach out to recruiters, but do your research. When it comes to cold outreach, especially if you're trying to get some kind of referrals or whatnot, try to focus on individuals who have more recently started their career. They're more likely to respond. Rami has graciously offered to help out people if they want to reach out, but of course you can reach out to the rest of us as well.
Absolutely.
When it comes to making a good first impression, be authentic, be yourself. There's no one else like you. A lot of people try to fit the mold, be like, oh, the recruiter's probably thinking they want to see this, or the company only hires profiles like that. But be who you are. It's the most valuable thing that you could do. Big piece. Do not give up hope, especially right now with COVID, a pandemic, everything that's going on. Don't give up hope. Be persistent. As Peter mentioned, make content on LinkedIn. Reach out to people. Peter's actually a great person to follow because he does such a phenomenal job on LinkedIn. I'm sure Claudia and Remy are as well. So follow these individuals, see what they're doing online, and try to replicate that. In terms of one piece of personal advice, alongside all of those great words of wisdom, is to do your homework. Do your research before you apply. Personalize your resume to the role, to the company. A lot of people, try to just spray and pray, send it to as many people as they can. Peter mentioned this as well. Take the time, focus. For myself, with my companies, when it comes to reviewing resumes, when it comes to reviewing applicants, it's so easy to tell who's actually taking a little bit of time. And it just, the value in terms of that ROI of spending the time for that application is incredible. So be sure to do so. I wanted to give a quick plug as well. My nonprofit Upstarted is currently looking for facilitators, and my consulting company Quantum Lead is also hiring. So please take a look at both on social media or connect with me after if you're interested in learning more. So special thank you to our presenters, to Peter, to Claudia, to Remy for being here. Thank you to the entire McGill team, to the Alumni Association, to Kate as well. Please do not hesitate to connect with us on LinkedIn after. We're happy to help out. We did not get to answer all your questions. Peter mentioned dozens of questions coming in per minute. We do have many of the topics already covered. We did this over the course of the Life Interrupted webinar series, ranging on themes like how to brand yourself, how to build a LinkedIn profile, how to interview well, how to prepare for virtual networking. So follow the McGill Young alumni page on LinkedIn to access these, or feel free to contact me there. And do stay tuned. We have more career building events from the Young Alumni Board coming up this fall. I want to give a special shout out to Peter. Peter, I know I already thanked you, but you've been spearheading this entire series. So thank you again for just providing these kind of resources and support. And I'm sure we're going to be working together again very soon. Final point, we did mention the importance of networking. There is a big event coming up. This is the McGill Young Alumni Virtual Cocktail. It's going to be happening on September 25th at 7 p.m. There's going to be a performance by the duo Stick and Bow. It's part of our homecoming activities. You'll get a chance to network, be entertained. The registration link will be included in the follow-up email, so it's highly recommended that you sign up and network away and also have a good night. So with that, I will wrap it up. Thank you all again for spending your evening with us. Be sure to follow along and have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you.